I never imagined the day my own mother would look me in the eyes and tell me I had 30 days to leave the house I called home. Not because I failed, not because I was irresponsible, but because she wanted it and knew she could take it from me. For years, I believed family was supposed to protect you, that blood meant loyalty, that your mother, of all people, would never be the one to stab you in the back. I was wrong. This is not just a dramatic story about a house. This is an eviction drama that shattered my sense of safety, a quiet family betrayal that unfolded behind smiles, hugs, and "I'm doing this for your own good," and a slow burn revenge that no one saw coming, not even her. At the time, my life looked simple from the outside. I was a woman in my early 30s, divorced, no kids, working hard, saving carefully, trying to rebuild after years of setbacks. That house wasn't a luxury, it was stability. It was the one thing I thought was finally mine. The cruel part? My mom had helped me get it. She insisted on being involved. She said it would be safer that way, that I could trust her. So when people later asked why I didn't see it coming, I didn't have an easy answer. Because betrayal doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it creeps in slowly, wrapped in love. At first, nothing felt wrong. She checked in more often, asked more questions about my finances, offered advice I didn't ask for. "You know, I just worry about you," she'd say. "I'm your mother." That sentence became her shield, and I let it. I didn't realize those questions weren't concern. They were calculations. I didn't realize those helpful suggestions were control, and I definitely didn't realize that my name on the mailbox didn't mean my home was safe. By the time the truth surfaced, the damage was already done. The paperwork was signed, the decisions were made, and I was standing in my kitchen holding a letter that didn't feel real, an eviction notice, with my mother's signature behind it. That was the moment my world cracked open. This is not a story about screaming matches or dramatic confrontations. It's about silence, manipulation, and how family betrayal can hurt more than any enemy ever could. I didn't fight back right away. I didn't explode. I didn't beg. I listened. I watched. And I learned. Because when someone takes your home from you, they don't just take walls and a roof. They take your sense of belonging. And once that's gone, you stop playing by the rules they expect. This dramatic story didn't end the way she thought it would, and what happened next taught me a lesson I'll never forget. What would you have done if your own mother took everything from you and called it love? Before everything collapsed, my life wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, predictable, almost boring, and that was exactly how I liked it. After my divorce, I moved back closer to my mom, not into her house, never that, but nearby. She said she wanted to be there for me. I thought it meant emotional support. Now I know it meant proximity. The house came a year later, a modest 2-bedroom place in a calm neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, or at least I believed it was. I paid the mortgage every month, utilities, repairs, insurance. I painted the walls myself, planted flowers in the front yard with my own hands. It wasn't just a house, it was proof I could stand on my own again. My mom was involved from the beginning. She offered to help with the down payment, said it was an early inheritance. She insisted her name be included on some paperwork, just in case. "In case something happens to you," she said softly, "you're single. I just want to protect you." That should have been my first warning, but when you're rebuilding your life, you cling to help, especially when it comes from your mother. At first, our relationship seemed stronger than ever. She came over for coffee on Sundays, complimented my cooking, told her friends how proud she was of me. From the outside, we looked like a close family. Inside, something was shifting. She started commenting on my choices, the hours I worked, the money I spent, the friends I kept. "Are you sure that's smart? I wouldn't do it that way. You know, if you listen to me more." It was subtle, just enough to make me second-guess myself. Looking back, that was the start of the family betrayal. Not loud, not cruel, just quiet erosion. Then came the pressure. She began reminding me, often, that she had helped me, that without her I wouldn't have the house, that I owed her stability. If anything ever happened, she'd say casually, I'd have to step in. Those words stuck with me. I didn't realize they were rehearsed. Around that time, my finances tightened. Nothing extreme, but enough to stress me out. I skipped vacations, worked extra hours, kept my head down. My mom noticed everything. That's when the manipulation intensified. She offered to manage things temporarily. Bills, paperwork, documents. Just to take some pressure off you, she said. I said no. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. After that, her visits felt different. Less warmth, more observation. She started walking through my home like it wasn't really mine, touching walls, commenting on resale value. I remember thinking, why does she sound like an owner? That's when the unease set in. That quiet feeling that something was wrong, but I couldn't name it yet. I didn't know I was already standing inside an eviction drama in slow motion. I didn't know the revenge wouldn't start with anger, but with patience. And I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The first time I noticed something was truly wrong, it wasn't during an argument. It was during a compliment. My mom stood in my living room, smiling softly, and said, "You know, this place would sell really fast in today's market." It felt strange, not cruel, just off. I laughed it off, told her I wasn't going anywhere. She nodded, but she didn't agree. After that, the comments kept coming, always casual, always framed as concern. Have you checked your credit lately? Do you know how risky it is to own property alone? If something happened to you, this would all be a mess. She said these things like warnings, but they sounded more like forecasts. Around the same time, small things began to disappear. Mail I didn't remember opening, documents I swore I'd left on the counter. When I asked her about it, she brushed it off. "You're probably just stressed," she said. "You've always been forgetful under pressure." That was gaslighting. I just didn't have the word for it yet. I started doubting myself, checking drawers twice, rereading emails to make sure I hadn't missed something. That's how family betrayal works. It makes you question your own memory before you ever question Mem. One afternoon, I came home to find her sitting at my kitchen table. My laptop was open, my paperwork spread out neatly in front of her. She didn't ask permission, she didn't apologize. "I was helping," she said calmly. "You don't need to get defensive." Defensive. That word landed like an accusation. She pointed out my expenses, suggested I was barely managing, implied I wasn't capable of long-term responsibility. It wasn't yelling, it was worse. It was quiet certainty. I tried to push back, reminded her I paid my bills, that my name was on the mortgage. She smiled again, a thin smile. "Not only your name," she said. That sentence replayed in my head for days. I started researching, digging through files, looking for something, anything that explained her confidence. What I found scared me. Her name appeared more than it should have, on documents I didn't remember signing, on forms I trusted her to handle. I confronted her gently, asked why things were structured that way. She sighed like I was exhausting her. "Because you needed help," she said, "and I'm your mother." That's when the ground shifted beneath me. This wasn't help, it was positioning. I realized I wasn't living in a home anymore. I was living inside a plan. The eviction drama hadn't started officially, but the stage was already set. And the worst part? Everyone else still thought she was the good parent, the supportive one, the savior. I was alone in my doubt, alone in my fear, and slowly understanding that this dramatic story was heading somewhere dark. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her fully. I waited, because something told me that when the truth finally came out, It would destroy more than just my trust. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. No warning, no phone call, no conversation beforehand. Just a plain white envelope sitting in my mailbox like it belonged there. I remember holding it in my hands, feeling annoyed more than scared. Bills always came on Tuesdays. I almost tossed it on the counter unopened. I wish I had. The moment I saw the words "notice to vacate," my chest tightened. My brain refused to process what my eyes were reading. Eviction, 30 days, legal language, cold and final. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was the eviction drama my mother had been preparing me for, quietly, patiently, methodically. I sat down on the kitchen floor. Not because I wanted to, because my legs gave out. I called her immediately. She answered on the second ring, like she'd been waiting. "Oh," she said calmly, "so you got it." That was it. No shock, no concern, just confirmation. I asked her why. My voice didn't sound like mine. She sighed, that familiar, exhausted sigh. "I told you this was coming. You weren't listening." She spoke as if this was a lesson, as if she were correcting a child. She told me she was protecting her investment, that she couldn't risk losing the house because of my instability, that she had every legal right. Every sentence felt like a slap. I reminded her that this was my home, that I had nowhere else to go. She paused, then said something I'll never forget. "You can stay with me for a while if you behave." That's when something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, a clean fracture. I realized this wasn't just family betrayal. It was control fully revealed. I didn't cry on the phone. I didn't yell. I said, "Okay." And I meant it, because in that moment, I understood something important. If I reacted emotionally, I would lose. So I did the opposite. I thanked her. Told her I needed time to process, said I trusted her judgment. She softened immediately. "That's my girl," she said. After the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. No music, no distractions, just me and the sound of my own breathing. This was the pause, the moment where most people expect revenge to explode. But real revenge doesn't look like rage. It looks like clarity. I read the notice again, then again. I noticed details, dates, signatures, assumptions she had made. For the first time since this began, I wasn't afraid. I was focused. This dramatic story wasn't over. It was just entering the part where I stopped being the victim, and she had no idea what I was about to do next. I didn't move out right away. That surprised her. Instead of packing boxes or begging for more time, I did something far more dangerous. I cooperated. I told my mom I was looking at apartments, that I understood why she had to do this, that I was grateful she was willing to let me stay with her if things fell apart. She relaxed instantly. People who manipulate others always relax when they think they've won. I started asking questions, small ones, harmless ones, about the mortgage, about taxes, about how long she planned to keep the house. She loved those conversations, loved explaining, loved feeling superior. That's when she made her first mistake. She assumed I was ignorant. I quietly pulled my credit reports, bank statements, public property records. Late at night, I sat at my kitchen table documenting everything. Every payment I had made, every transfer, every email where she said the house was basically yours. This wasn't emotional. It was methodical. The revenge didn't feel like anger. It felt like organization. I consulted a lawyer, not to fight the eviction, but to understand leverage. That distinction mattered. He explained what she could do legally, and more importantly, what she couldn't. Turns out her perfect plan had cracks. She had positioned herself as the owner, but relied heavily on my money. Mortgage payments, maintenance, improvements. If I left suddenly, the financial burden would hit her hard. And I didn't tell her that. Instead, I smiled more. agreed more, acted smaller. I let her believe the family betrayal had broken me. She started talking openly about her future: renovations, selling, retirement plans, plans built on assumptions. That's when I made my second move. I stopped paying. Not recklessly, not illegally. I followed my lawyer's instructions to the letter. Utilities, repairs, maintenance, anything that wasn't explicitly required, I quietly withdrew from. The house changed almost immediately. Small issues piled up. Costs appeared. Stress followed. She noticed. "You've been distracted," she said one afternoon. "You need to be responsible." I nodded. "I'm trying," I said. And it was true. I was being responsible to myself. The eviction drama had shifted. She was no longer in total control. And still, she didn't panic. Not yet. She thought she had time. She thought I would leave quietly. That was her biggest miscalculation. Because while she was planning my exit, I was planning her exposure. This dramatic story was about to turn, and karma doesn't announce itself. It just arrives, right on schedule. The first sign of panic came disguised as irritation. My mom started calling more often, not to check on me, but to complain about the house, the bills, the stress. "The costs are higher than I expected," she said. "You should have warned me." I almost laughed. Instead, I apologized. "I didn't realize how much I was covering before," I said softly. That was true, and it landed harder than any accusation. Within weeks, things escalated. The mortgage company sent notices. Property taxes were due. Repairs she had postponed suddenly couldn't wait. She tried to sell. That's when everything unraveled. Potential buyers asked questions about improvements, about maintenance records, about why the property had been supported by someone who was now being evicted. Questions she couldn't answer cleanly. And then came the legal complication she never anticipated. My lawyer sent a letter, not a lawsuit, not a threat, a clarification. It detailed my financial contributions, my documented investments, and my legal interest in the property's value. It didn't accuse her of doing wrong, it simply stated facts. Facts are dangerous when someone's power depends on silence. She called me that night. Her voice wasn't calm anymore. "Why would you do this to me?" she asked. I took a breath. "I didn't," I said. "I just stopped protecting you." That was the moment she realized the revenge wasn't emotional, it was structural. The eviction process stalled, the sale paused, her plans collapsed under their own weight. This wasn't cruelty, it was consequence. The family betrayal had backfired, not because I attacked her, but because I stepped away. She tried to regain control, accused me of being ungrateful, reminded me she was my mother. But the spell was broken. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply stayed consistent. And consistency is terrifying to manipulators. Eventually, she offered a compromise. She would drop the eviction, put things back the way they were, pretend nothing had happened. I said no. That shocked her, because for the first time, I wasn't afraid of losing the house. I had already reclaimed something more important: my agency. This dramatic story wasn't about winning property. It was about ending control. And karma? It didn't scream. It whispered. But it was loud enough. When everything finally slowed down, the silence felt strange. Not peaceful, just unfamiliar. For weeks, my life had revolved around documents, phone calls, and careful restraint. Once the pressure lifted, I didn't know what to do with myself. I moved out on my own terms, not because I was forced to, but because I chose to. A small apartment. Nothing impressive, but it was mine in a way the house never truly was. The hardest part wasn't losing a home, it was losing the version of my mother I thought I had. That grief didn't come all at once. It came in waves. I'd hear her voice in my head when I made decisions, second-guess myself, wonder if I was being cruel. That's the lasting damage of family betrayal. It teaches you to doubt your boundaries. People asked if I hated her. I didn't. Hate requires energy. I was done giving her mine. The eviction drama changed how I understood power. I learned that control doesn't always look aggressive. Sometimes it wears the face of concern. I also learned something uncomfortable about revenge. Real revenge isn't loud. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't demand apology. It's choosing not to be available for harm anymore. My mom and I barely speak now. When we do, it's polite, distant. She still tells people her version of the dramatic story, how she tried to help, how things got complicated. I let her, because the truth no longer needs my voice to exist. What surprised me most was what came after. Freedom. Not the exciting kind, the quiet kind. The kind where you sleep better, where your chest doesn't tighten when your phone rings, where your home, no matter how small, feels safe. I stopped chasing approval, stopped explaining myself, stopped mistaking guilt for love. If this story has a lesson, it's not about property or paperwork. It's about trust, about how easily it can be weaponized and how powerful it is to take it back. Some people will tell you that family should always come first. I don't believe that anymore. I believe honesty comes first, safety comes first, self-respect comes first. And sometimes choosing yourself is the most difficult and necessary act of courage there is. I didn't win a house, I won my life back, and that was enough. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that house. Not the walls, not the rooms, but the version of myself who believed love and control could coexist. Back then, I thought security came from ownership, from names on paper, from doing everything the right way. Now I know better. Security comes from clarity, from knowing when something feels wrong and trusting that instinct before it's too late. This eviction drama didn't end with slammed doors or dramatic speeches. It ended quietly, with distance, with acceptance. People like to ask if I regret how things turned out. I don't, because regret assumes there was a better option available at the time. There wasn't. What I regret is how long I ignored myself, how I confused obligation with love, how I let family betrayal disguise itself as concern. If you're listening to this and something about it feels uncomfortably familiar, pay attention to that feeling. Control doesn't always show up as anger. Sometimes it shows up as help, as advice, as someone insisting they know what's best for you. This dramatic story could have gone very differently if I had reacted with emotion instead of patience, if I had fought instead of observed, if I had exploded instead of stepping back. That's the part people rarely talk about. The most effective revenge isn't punishment, it's withdrawal. It's refusing to participate in dynamics designed to shrink you. It's choosing peace over proving a point. I don't tell this story to make anyone look like a villain. I tell it because situations like this happen more often than people admit. Behind closed doors, behind polite smiles, inside families that look perfectly normal from the outside. And if you've ever felt trapped by someone who claims to love you, you're not weak, you're not imagining it, and you're not alone. Walking away doesn't mean you lost. Sometimes it means you finally stopped losing. So I'll leave you with this. If someone you trusted had the power to take your home, your stability, your sense of safety, what would you have done differently? And more importantly, what would you choose now?